Hello and welcome to the TechGeek Virtual Boardroom on staying ahead of the curve with coding challenges and hackathons. I'm your host Sukriti. Thank you so much for joining us today, everyone. So hackathons and coding competitions have changed the way we engage with the technical talent community today. And they play a very critical role in helping companies fend off the disruption when it comes to engaging the right talent. We here, with valuable techniques, talks, and discussions from the leading industry experts from Searce and Aerospike. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ashwin S. Jaisinghani, Senior Director, People Success Searce Inclusive, and Sunil Sayyaparaju, Vice President of Engineering from Aerospike. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here, for this conversation. Thank you so much. I would request you to please go ahead, introduce yourself, and give me the opening remark for this conversation. Ashwin, let's start with you.
Thank you, Sukriti and Sunil. My name is Ashwin Jaisinghani. I lead the people strategy and business partnering function for Searce globally. I operate from Pune. We essentially are a high-tech cloud consulting company that helps customers futurify their businesses leveraging cloud, AI, and analytics. Back to you, Sukriti.
Thank you. Sunil, please go ahead. Sunil, we cannot hear you.
Hey, myself, I'm Sunil. I'm the VP of Engineering at Aerospike. So Aerospike is. Oh, can you hear me fine now?
Yeah, good.
Can you hear me fine now? Okay. Yeah, sorry. Let me start again. So hey, myself, I'm Sunil. I'm a VP of Engineering at Aerospike. So Aerospike is a NoSQL database. Our USP is mainly high performance and low latency. So used mostly in industries which has very heavy volumes of traffic to deal with the traffic and efficiently store and retrieve the data.
Thank you, Sunil. Thank you so much. So I think without any further ado, I would want to get started with the questions that I have for the two of you, and let our audience not wait anymore for the insight that you're going to share today during this conversation. So to begin with, the first question that I have for the two of you is that how one can actually get started with hackathons to engage with the developer ecosystem. Sunil, I would like to begin with you.
Okay. So I think in terms of this coding challenges and hackathons, there will be two parties involved, right? Like one is the developer community itself and the companies. So I'll start off with what from a developer's perspective first, why it is important to be in part of that. And the second, I will also try to see how from a company point of view, we see stating the obvious, there are two flavors of this, right? One is coding challenges, one is hackathons. Coding challenges is basically where the problem is predefined, say this is what you need to achieve, right? So and people would compete or try to solve that problem in different ways. Whereas hackathons is more open-ended, where you can use your creativity to set a particular goal for you, and then you basically work towards solving that in a limited amount of time. But the common thing across these two formats is basically you get to try new products, languages, technologies, and take your idea to fruition basically. So so it's not something you would do day to day in office, right? So these are something you thought is cool to try it out, and here is your opportunity to try those things. So and if you're trying the same thing, let's say you're doing something in your day-to-day office work and you think you're good at it and go to these hackathons and do the same thing, I would say it's a waste of your time. Don't do it. So this is a place where you go to learn new things, right? And also one important thing to keep in mind is in these places, right? So this coding challenges or hackathons, right, is just a start of an idea. So you're just trying to see how it's going to work, or trying to see do a POC of your idea. So it may not be end-to-end product, right? It may be just 10% of the whole thing. A developer's life in general, if you see, right, only maybe 10 to 20% of their day-to-day goes into this coding. but a lot of it like is testing, troubleshooting, bug fixing, refining like what you have, like do more iterations. So hackathon is, I would say, like I would summarize just saying that hackathon is just a starting of an idea, but don't think that that's the end of it or it's a validation of your idea. It is definitely not a validation of your idea. It's just a way place to showcase your idea. So why I say it is not a validation is like you go to a hackathon, let's say like it doesn't get picked up as a good idea or something. That doesn't mean that like it's a bad idea. So there are like many examples like where in Y Combinator hackathons and all, like there are failed projects which became successful companies. So that's why I just summarize it saying like it's a showcase of your idea, but not a validation of your idea. I'll stop there and I'll hand over the forum.
Thank you, Sunil. Ashwin, what are your thoughts on this?
Thank you, Sunil. It was insightful. And Srukriti, to your question, how can companies start a hackathon in order to engage themselves with the developer community, if I understood correct, right? I think hackathons are a great way for companies to engage with the developer communities and essentially foster any kind of innovation that they want to do. And I think if you're a little more, as a company, if you're a little structured in your approach, and if you're able to kind of really, let's say, first define what is the objective of the hackathon. Whether do you want to just foster innovation, or you want to identify new talent, or even create a new product or services, because there is not enough coming in internally, for example, and you're looking at a larger community to come back to you and suggest what is the market waiting for, then that can be a great way. But if you're very clear in terms of defining the objective before you kick it off, so that you can then have it flow in a certain way. Of course, you need to set up a date and a time which is most likely to have maximum participation. Example, a lot of companies do it on a weekend. Some prefer it doing it during a festival, etc., when people have more time. So it's up to you to decide, where it is going to be held, where there is a larger community that can actually make it convenient to attend, for example. You should also try and create a theme, according to me. And if the company is organizing it, then it should be relatable to what the company's products or services are. Because I mean, it can't be like out of context, right? Because if your objective was to come up with and find a product or a service in line with your GTM, then it has to have a theme around which people will come up with those ideas or concepts or proof of concepts or whatever you want to call it. And of course, the key is to ensure that you get a very, very large developers community to participate. Of course, there are enough channels today to ensure you reach out to the largest forums individually through social media, posting on developer forums, any other your own databases that you typically use for searching talent. I mean, 30,000-40,000 people's data is not too difficult for most mid-sized companies to have on their own itself without even stepping out, so to say. A lot of times, developers are not able to participate because they don't have the required tools, for example. So it's important that the company also provides the requisite tools, whether it is a software or a hardware. Because if I have to, example, buy a software in order to participate in your hackathon, then I'm going to be dissuaded, so to say, not encouraged really to participate because it's going to be an out-of-pocket expense for me. So keeping all that infra ready, including the obvious food, beverages, etc., so that people don't really have to kind of keep stepping out to satisfy their hunger pangs. And this has to be throughout the event, really, because generally hackathons are a start to finish. Some get started outside, offline, or online rather, and then move. The final few will come and gather at a single place. Some do the entire event online. Some do the entire event in a single room in a 24 hours non-stop kind of a, because it's more competition as to who wins. And obviously you're going to set up those guidelines, right? as to what the do's and don'ts are. How am I going to judge this? What are the criterias? What are the deadlines? So that people really know exactly what are they getting into before the start, and not really midway they realize, oops, I am going north instead of really south that I was supposed to per se. And just make it attractive from a goodies standpoint, because you obviously can't pay them for this is not a service that they're providing, but at least it could be cash rewards, gadgets, trip to an exotic location if you wish to. If it's really something, an idea that can generate numbers for you, why not? Because I mean, that's all one needs today, right? I mean, most of the funding that happens, for example, the funding happens for an idea and not really a product, so to say. So if you're able to get those, where I've seen most companies fail is not completing the circle. They kind of dropping, there's no follow-up that happens really, right? Because it's important to gather feedback and determine whether what went right, what could have been better. Example, you may not have achieved the objective itself, but people had a great time. So it's not good for you, but good for them, for example. So it's important to get all of that feedback in order to complete that whole circle, according to me. So those are my thoughts in case companies want to create a successful hackathon.
Thanks, Ashwin. I think so. These are the typical conventional things that we talk about. We know, but for me, today's conversation is going beyond these things when we actually try and plan any activity of these sorts when it comes to engaging the developer community. Ashwin, I would like to understand from you. You have a people's background wherein you have more interaction with people, the way they work in the organization, and the kind of expectation the company has. So you try and sync up everything and then work accordingly. Now, how can companies actually build their talent brand through these coding events or engagements?
I think all of these coding events or any such engagement really, which is to do from a talent, whether in-house or outside, is always very powerful way for companies to build their talent brand and also attract top talent. And like I said, if you have defined their objective, how do you go beyond the obvious in order to really get the best mind, right? For example, if it was us organizing, right, everybody wants to work on cloud AI and analytics. So for me, that would be the three words that I would really catch on in order to help people to get them excited. Can I partner with somebody who's a big name? For example, we partner with Google, for example. Everybody knows who Google is, right? So I don't need to then market something else. That's something which is not the regular way of doing it, because companies would technically do it for themselves. In this case, you can also partner with somebody else, right? Yeah. Also, which format do you want to suggest? Because if the objective is talent, then do you want to go for a hackathon, or do you want to just go for a coding challenge, or do you want to do a workshop? Or it could just be a meetup. Just get everybody together and give them a problem statements, and you're trying to sort that out per se. So there are different types of ways to engage people. It doesn't have to be one format fits the all, right? I mean, depending on what level you're targeting at, right? You want really people who are part of the innovation teams in some other companies that you want to target, then your theme has to be very different. If you're targeting some super guys who are nerds, who are really hands-on and can crack any code that you want to, then you can actually have a coding challenge, give them a really super difficult problem to solve to see who's the best. And of course have offers ready per se, right, on saying that the top 10 get an open offer from the organizer, and they can decide their package, for example. Of course, there are always TNCs, which are the ... but this could be a great way of exciting people to come and join a company that they feel is working on high tech. Because most people really are looking at how do I get to work on what is yet to come in the market. And companies like us, right, who are in the futuristic space, whether it's to do with cloud AI and analytics, The only restriction is your own imagination. I mean, where you could apply AI, for example, the only restriction is your own imagination. I could apply AI right now in this conversation itself, right, as to intelligently mute when it's not relevant and highlight what's relevant in the conversation, right, by having an intelligent AI piece added to this. So that's up to you in terms of doing it. A lot of people also join organizations, and if your target is that I'm going to look at talent specifically, is how do you depict the culture through these events? For example, we stand for a culture which is called happier culture, right? And am I able to really depict that during these events, which comes up very, very evidently, so that people really feel, oh, this is the place that, or the culture that I would want to be a part of? Because if we are able to really come across as a company who is able to share their vision, mission, and values in that whole event and able to communicate that very, very effectively, I think that's a much better and more robust way of exciting people to join you than just the challenges, so to say.
True, I would actually second that, Ashwin, because when we talk about such engagements, normally it's either the reward points or they're just getting your hands onto those things. So but we as companies, we as developers, we need to understand the horizon in a broader manner so that we can look at it in a different way. You can get reward points for the minutest of competitions or things that you participate in, but what are you getting along with it that can actually elevate your career is more important. And for organizations, it actually comes down to the business growth, it comes down to the product adoption, it comes down to how well your brand is actually settled in the market and how well reputed it is. So with this, actually I would like to go to Sunil. Sunil, you have a tech background, and I think product is your forte to actually add your insights into. So improving the product adoption is critical for business growth. Now, how do you exactly think that hackathons and coding competitions actually elevate these objectives for the company?
Yeah. Before going into answering that question, I want to just highlight two of the points that I really like from Ashwin's one. So one is like picking a theme for the coding challenge or hackathons, and also so mainly because like it gives a structure for the whole thing, right? So it's not a free form, like so both parties, like the developers like involved in the hackathons and the companies like should get something out of it, right? So that's part one. And the second part I really liked is like the hackathons are basically a preview into the culture of the company, so it will attract talent that way. So yeah, having said that, like yeah, going back to the question, like how does it help the product adoption itself? So like I briefly reiterated things about the structure of the hackathon itself, right? So if you structure the hackathons in such a way that like the product, so basically that company's product, right? So is put it in the forefront. So it can be at two stages, right? So one, like you're launching an entirely new product, like which is something fresh, right? How do you know that this is something which developers will be interested about, or like is it complete, right? So the other part is like it may be some add-on features to the existing product. Some new releases are happening, new functionalities added. So people already love your product, and like let's say they are used to doing it in a certain way. So now from a company point of view, like we said, okay, so this is some feature like that people are really using, and this is where they're struggling, right? And then like they say, okay, we will give this additional set of features so that people can spend less effort and like get things done faster, right, with this new set of features. So this is where like this hackathons and coding challenges will be helpful, because how do you push people from doing it in inefficient way to a more efficient way, right? So so let's say like we give a new API so that like let's say there's an existing API like where user has to do 10 steps to do something. So now like what if this came as a new feature, like where user can do this more efficiently with like just one API, right? They should know that such a thing exists, and like they can move to a better model. So it will help like in that way. So both either when it is launched as a new product or an enhancement to a new library. So like we have actually seen this like in one of the competitions like we had at Aerospike. So when we launched a new geo library, so people were storing it in a normal way like before that, and like some people like who came to the hackathon realized that like we have a new API and they started using the geo library of Aerospike. So in fact, like they were storing some drone flight information like in the database, like with the geo data. We have not anticipated that, but so we also see some surprises like people end up using in ways which we might not have anticipated. So that's also a good learning for the from a company's perspective. So and like also one aspect Ashwin was bringing is right, like provide the tools also like for them in the hackathon that they don't need to struggle with it. So yeah, whenever we do this new features or things, right, we need to make sure we have the proper docs, proper examples, and also give them a sandbox environment so that like they don't need to do all the background setup and infrastructure and also that they're just focused on like what they want, right? Not setup, maintenance, costs, everything. So we should abstract that out and let them focus on what they want. So yeah.
Thank you, Sunil, for that. And I would want to understand that when you say creating a simplified plan, maybe a simplified process of conducting these hackathons, how can that be done? So, because this is a very customized process that we're talking about for the companies. So, any one way that you would want to just mention as a reference that this is how it should be done, maybe?
So like I briefly mentioned, right? So giving them a sandbox environment, right? Like where,
Mm-hmm.
so like if your product is a cloud service or like it's a product, right? So so if it is a product, like you can install it on a certain machine with like a given amount of resources, like which is good enough for a wide set of customers, and uh, and also configured with some certain end use cases in mind so that like it is optimal for it. So basically I'm saying that like yeah, we should give them a sandbox environment, like they should focus on implementing their idea rather than the whole infrastructure. So typically in companies like that responsibility is separated, right? So there will be infrastructure team, there will be somebody who is doing the licensing and all for you, but like developers will be focused on using these things and doing their job.
Okay. Okay. All right. So that was for the companies. How can actually, what would you suggest to the developers here? How can they be well equipped to be a part of any engagements like this, be it hackathon, be it coding competitions?
Sorry, can you elaborate that question?
Yeah. So I just wanted to understand, so you suggested this reference for the companies that, how can they
Mhm.
actually put up a simpler plan? What is your suggestion to the developers who are participating into these engagements, these hackathons, in terms of how well they can be cubed when it comes to being a part of any activity like this?
Yeah, definitely a little bit of homework goes a long way. So, like basically, let's say a company is organizing a hackathon, right? Like you can kind of research a little bit, like what they are into, what is the space where this product fits, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there should be a impedance match between like what you want to do and like what the product offers and in which space. So
Okay.
yeah, a little bit of research goes a long way in that.
Thank you, Sunil, for that. Ashwin, would you like to add something here from the business growth perspective that you think is very critical when it comes to these engagements?
Sorry, Sukruti, losing in between.
Yeah,
Can
so
you
I was
repeat?
asking, yeah, I was asking if you want to add anything onto the business growth part when it comes to, actually engaging people in such activities, Ashwin.
I think Sunil has covered most of it, but
Mm-hmm.
can it add to business growth? I mean, yeah, I think in today's times, any kind of publicity is welcome. So if it adds to it, why not?
All right. So, that was about how product option is actually critical for the business growth. Ashwin, I would like to understand from you that engaging with the developer community can actually help us in various ways, as you just mentioned. Do you think it also adds on to attracting the quality talent? Because I clearly remember you mentioning in the previous question, while you were answering that for me, that it actually adds on to attracting the top talent. So how, would you like to elaborate onto this, Ashwin?
I think first is an emphatic yes. That engaging with the developer community can definitely add to attracting quality talent, because despite of so much of advancement in terms of how do you go about acquiring the talent that you want to, we still rely on the old means of getting connected in order to hire the one talent that you want to, right? And even today, cross references, finding somebody from your own circle, etc., is still considered to be far more effective than all the mediums put together. With no offense to all the apps that are there in the market, right, in terms of saying that I'm going to help you to hire the best 1% talent. Unless you are able to reach out yourself, both as an organization, as an individual, to certain folks that you have identified that they will be the talent that you want to hire, it's not going to help. So how does hackathons really help in attracting is, one, I think it helps you to build your brand. Because today's market, right, India has probably the highest number of IT services companies across the globe, with almost one company turning a unicorn every week. Before a few weeks ago, because times have changed now, but till then it was almost only one large startup, hitting to be valued at a unicorn every week. And if you're able to really help carve out a niche for yourself by building a brand through these, when you are engaging with the community that helps you to really deliver those services that you want, and in a direct way, right, this helps you to increase your visibility, the brand awareness, and no amount of marketing really will get you the kind of direct impact. Of course, if it's a successful event, otherwise it's of no use per se. But then developers do get access directly to your company, right? I spoke about the culture, but including about what you are, what products do you, or what services do you sell, and therefore even they may not look at it now, but they'll definitely have a recall value if they were to see something on any of the social sites that, I'm looking at such and such talent, especially if the experience that you've created has been positive. And therefore my stress always is that, create that experience whenever you engage with them, because at some point in their careers, they will look at an opportunity with you if the experience has been positive. It also shows that you value this community, which is primarily the developers, right? That's what you're targeting at, which forms 90% of your workforce in most IT services companies. And you're also demonstrating that, you appreciate their work, you are committed in their growth and development. You want to see them go to the next level from a tech capability standpoint by providing such platforms, etc. So that's showing your commitment as an organization. And because of the kind of people that are likely to come there, if you're able to attract the right folks, right, this will also help you to stay up to date as to what's happening in the market. Because end of the day, how much can you interact, right, with 100, 200, 1,000, 2,000 people maybe? But having a 20, 40,000 developer community coming to you, this will also help you to understand what the latest trends and technologies are that you should be working on as an organization if you want to attract this kind of a talent, right? There are a large number of databases, open sources, which nobody would have heard 12 months ago, that are in the reckoning today, right? Some of the very, very, very large behemoths today are nowhere on the horizon, thanks to the advancing tech, because they were not able to keep up pace with the changing trends, right? So if you're not able to see those trends, and these are some of those platforms that helps you to know. So, example, if you were to today do a coding hackathon on C++, for example, right? You will be in for a shock that there's nobody who turned out, right? Because everybody has moved on, for example, to far newer technologies, and these have become kind of just history words, right? Of course, they're still being used in compilers, etc., but not the larger community, right? So this also helps you to understand the trends that are there in the market, right? And if you want to stay on top of the game, then you should also be using the latest tools and technology in order to attract the best talent. Everybody wants to work for those. If nothing else, at least it will help you to network with these guys, right? I mean, this just helps you to increase your database by a few more thousand or million odd numbers, which you otherwise would have struggled to get them in your database, right? So I think overall,
Ashwin, yeah, please go ahead. No, I had to ask something, but please go ahead. You finished.
No, go ahead, ask. I don't want to break it.
So, I just want to understand, has this convention of attracting the top talent been on priority or one of the important elements of the checklist while companies are conducting the hackathon, or it's just one of the elements which have been recently discovered? How do you look at it?
Anybody who says otherwise is lying. The only race all of the tech companies are in getting the best talent. That is the number one priority. I mean, of course, businesses, but then who's going to serve the talent that you're going to hire? So anybody who says otherwise, it's good holy statements, but apparently it doesn't hold any truth. Everybody wants to hire the best talent because only if you have those, we'll be able to come up with the next futuristic cutting edge services and products as well. So if you are able to really get this meeting right of the developer community, this can really be a very, very powerful tool to attract the talent that you really want to. Of course, it's a huge amount of effort, etc. And therefore, not very only medium and large size companies really attempt to do this because it also costs a lot of money, so to say. So budgets are equally important. If you don't have, then don't even dream of doing this because you're not going to attract. If you don't have iPads and Google phones, etc., to be gifted, then don't even think about doing it because that's not exciting enough for people to just come for the community per se.
Right, and I think this is a very exclusive market wherein you actually see active job seekers as well as passive job seekers who are not even looking for it. They just want to be a part of the competition, work on the ideas, and just work around the business problem. But they end up with a good package, and this has happened when a couple of years that we hosted our events for Gladiators and Geek Goddess. That the winners didn't look up to having a job in the organization they won the hackathon for, but they ended up with the reward money as well as getting a job in the organization. So I think it's a good market, and when the person gets a good offer based on the certification, apart from the certification rather, I think nobody would deny that, right? From the developer point of view.
I don't want to name the company, but
yes.
Don't want to name the company, but the one that I worked for earlier, for example, right? We used to get them into our best campus, host them there. We had a 500-seater bed out there. Fantastic chefs from all across the place flown in to make some exotic meals for them for that 2 days, etc. Really pamper them out there, take them around our campuses, and just have that awe feeling for them, saying that, oh man, this company is the one that I want to be in, right? So whether he's an active or a passive candidate, you've done your job in terms of impressing and putting in his mind that if at all, whenever he tries, if not today, this is the company that he would surely want to join, if for nothing else, just for the kind of grandeur that they provide.
All right, I think I will now move to Sunil with this conversation about crowdsourcing the ideas, of course. So Sunil, first thing first, do you think these modes of engagement also help in crowdsourcing product ideas? And I think you're going to give me an emphatic yes, as Ashwin gave me for the prior question. And if you think it is, how does this whole thing happen? I would also like to tell the two of you that I have so many questions people have actually put down for both of you. So right after this, I'm going to go to them, and of course, we have enough time to address them. So of course, before that, I would want you to help us understand what the crowdsourcing product is.
Sorry. Yeah. So I think you may be disappointed that you won't be getting an emphatic yes from me for the crowdsourcing idea. So because I think it's just a part of the whole idea gathering, but like if somebody is depending on the hackathons or coding challenges for their crowdsourcing ideas, I think company will be doomed for it. Because product managers has to gather these things like from many different sources, and crowdsourcing is one of it, just one of it, right? And hackathons has a very different environment, right? Or like in Hindi they call it mahol, right? So it's not like a regular day-to-day setup. So you're in an intense time pressure, like where you have to do things quickly, like somehow figure out things and like get it up and running. People end up doing a lot of shortcuts during this process, and so it should be taken with a pinch of salt, like what happens in this environment. So one thing like where it is really good at is to see whether people are able to figure out your product in that short time span. So it's a very good validation for that. Because like, so let's say your documentation is not clear, APIs are hard to use, or you have to go through multiple steps, right? So that comes as an input to the product manager saying that, oh, like people are figuring out this part of the product very quickly, but like they're struggling with this part. So like we have to do something to make this part easy. So it's good like validation in those aspects, but not like in entirety. Like again, like the cons of it, like I was saying, right? They're in an intense time pressure, like they will do hacks to do something like, but they may not be using the right one. So that doesn't mean that that is the most important aspect. So this is like just one of the avenues for the product managers to gather their ideas, but like they should also test in the more neutral environments or like which doesn't have let's say a lot of time pressure. So yeah, so it's I think like I would say like hackathons is like a mixed bag for crowdsourcing the ideas.
Okay, so concluding it being one of the avenues,
Yes.
Sunil, for the hackathons and when it comes to developer engagement, I would now like to move on to the questions before we actually conclude our show. Cheta has a question for you, Sunil. She is asking how can actually be one equipped with, which we have already answered. The next one is, what are your tips for an experienced professional, like a non-tech product manager, who wants to take away, or a coding competition or a hackathon, wants to participate in?
So that's one thing like actually which I personally would want to say more happening in the hackathon environments. Like a lot of the hackathons like tend to be more of the freshers or like who are very new into the industry, and little bit less on the more experienced people. So I think
Mm-hmm.
like some companies like which are like big do in-house hackathons, like where it is open to only the employees. So there you actually get a big spread of experienced people also, like people in the different teams. But what I would like to see also in this public hackathons also like more senior people coming into the hackathons. That's where like this product ideas thing also help, right? Like one of the question you asked is like, how does it help in crowdsourcing ideas or product adoption? Um, so like we would like to get the full spectrum of the input, right? So from like junior developers, senior developers, and architects, right? Everybody. So then it will be a full feedback loop.
All right, thank you, Sunil. Ashwin, for you, I have a question from Kirti. She's saying, how do you see the growth of the coders and developers community in India?
Sorry, how do I see the?
Growth of the coders or the developers community in India.
Okay, Kirti, thank you for the question. How do I see depends on what are you coding and how abreast are you keeping yourself of the technologies that are futuristic and keep upgrading, keep cross skilling and upskilling yourself. If you're going to do that all the time, I think you're going to be relevant for the years to come, because the way the technology is changing on an hourly basis, if you have not known what's going to happen tomorrow, I think it's dooms for all of us, not just you as a coder, but I think for all of us as leaders and functions, for the function that we lead per se.
All right. Thank you, Ashwin, for that. Kirti, I hope your question has been answered. Sunil, I have a question for you. Nidhi is asking that what kind of events are you doing as a company that involves developer community? What are the kind of engagements you were doing at your firm?
Okay. So yeah, so recently there have been renewed effort, like in terms of engaging more with the developer community. So so one, like we do meetups. So in our office, like where we talk about like where we talk about our company, our product also, and at the same time also invite other people from other companies also to talk in this meetup. So it's not going to be it will not be bombarding you with just Aerospike stuff. Okay, so they should get a full wider spectrum. So the other part is like we are also doing these workshops. So where like people get hands-on. So we will set up the lab environment for them. So like I think earlier I was talking, right? Provide them a sandbox environment and let people focus on their idea. So we do those workshops also.
All right. Thank you, Sunil. I think you've answered Nidhi's question. I hope you have no other question, Nidhi. That was about the live Q&A that we had from the audience. Ashwin, Sunil, I had a great time. We had a power-packed conversation. And thank you so much for being here and sharing your valuable insights with us during this conversation. What are your closing remarks to the conversation? I would like to know that. Ashwin, please go ahead and share your closing remarks for the session, please.
My closing remarks are keep solving. That's it.
Sunil, what about you?
Yes, I think I would say in the same line. So yeah, we should keep up to date with the latest technologies. Like in the beginning question, I said like, don't go to hackathons to do things that you know. Go there like to things that you have not tried it before, but always found it cool.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Sunil. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us and being a part of this conversation. Audience, thank you so much for those questions that you had for Sunil and Ashwin both. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I'm going to come back with a couple of more boardrooms next month. So stay tuned to Tech It for all the latest tech updates and such conversations. Till then, stay safe. Take care, everyone. Thank you, Sunil and Ashwin, once again.
Yeah, thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you, sir.
It was a nice
For
discussion.
inviting us. It's a pleasure knowing you.
Okay, over and out.
Bye-bye. Hey, Sunil, I guess that's about it. Good chatting with you. Nice to hear you as well.